Welcome back to The Gap. I am Shannon Edwards, your host and owner of TriStar Pension Consulting. I would like to welcome all listeners to our podcast with a special welcome to those of you listening for the first time. I started this podcast because I have a passion for helping Americans achieve a dignified retirement. By sharing innovative ideas, this podcast is designed to help close the gaps that America has in retirement savings and coverage. By doing so, we can improve the lives of working Americans. Each month, we talk with industry leaders who are helping to strengthen the private retirement system through their work, their volunteer service, and their advocacy. Today, I'm especially excited to introduce a guest who comes at the retirement ecosystem from a different vantage point than most of our prior episodes. Instead of talking to a consultant, service provider, or policy expert, we're going straight to the plan sponsor side. We'll hear from someone at the helm of a major employer's retirement strategy, someone who lives and breathes the employer experience every day. I am thrilled to welcome Marjorie Mann, Senior Counsel at NextEra Energy Company. At NextEra, she brings her deep expertise to managing legal compliance, governance, and structural issues around the company's employee benefits. Over her career, she's been deeply involved in the broader retirement industry, most notably serving as past president of the Plan Sponsor Council of America and now serving as president of the American Retirement Association. In those leadership roles, Marjorie is helping to bridge the divide between employer interests and the real-world challenges employees face in accumulating sufficient resources for retirement. She is positioned to speak not just about policies and regulations, but about how they play out on the ground, what works, what doesn't, and where the opportunities lie. Marjorie has dedicated her career to working with employee benefit plans. She's a powerful voice for plan sponsors, a passionate advocate for retirement readiness, and a respected leader in our industry. Thank you for being here, Marjorie, and for doing the kind of work that helps people move closer to retirement security.
Thank you so much, Shannon. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, I always love to start with the story behind the title because every career in this industry seems to have a moment that sparks something deeper. So tell us what path led you into employee benefit space and how did that evolve into your current role?
That's something that I really enjoy talking about because I feel that I was inspired by other people who went before me. And so I hope that my path to where I am now could be inspiring for others. I did not go immediately to law school from college. When I was a teenager, I worked in my dad's firm as a filing clerk, and he had an investment company selling mutual funds, and he managed a sales staff. And so when I did filing, I felt like I was learning a lot because I read everything. And, you know, you do learn quite a bit, especially at that age. I then went to college and I worked after school. I lived at home. I was a commuter. And then when I graduated, I had various jobs. The first one was as a legal assistant at a law firm doing trust and estate administration. And some of those trusts were employee benefit trusts. And that was how I got interested in benefit plans. The law firm did summary plan descriptions. And so I was one of the test cases to read it and see if I could understand it. And if I could, then they did a good job. And if I couldn't, they had to go back to the drawing board because, as you know, summary plan descriptions have to be in plain English so that everyone who's a participant in the plan can understand how the plan operates. So after that, I had various positions. I was a 401k administrator at a large Fortune 100 company. Then I was a trust officer at a Japanese bank doing 401k trust management. And from there, I met a lawyer there who used to advise the staff about new 401k regulations. And they were particularly interested in separate line of business for testing purposes because it was a lot of Japanese clients. They didn't want to keep all of their worldwide employees in their testing for their American benefit plans. So I, kind of arrogantly, I think, felt as though the lawyer that we had wasn't doing that great of a job of explaining what the regulations were to us on the staff. And I said, I could do a better job than that. So I got motivated to go to law school at night. And it was hard, but I got through it and I worked really, really hard. And after that, I was very lucky to get a job in a mid-sized law firm in New Jersey, Morristown, New Jersey, where I got really terrific experience on some very large clients. And my career just has been so fulfilling in the sense that I got to see so many different areas of the practice. I will say, though, as a note, that I was wrong to be so critical of the attorney who I thank him very much for motivating me. However, once I got to that position, I saw it's not that easy to explain these complicated IRS regulations to people who are not attorneys. It's very complicated to explain them to attorneys too. It's not that attorneys are smarter than the other people. In fact, sometimes it's the opposite. But it really was, that was a motivating factor, but I turned out to be wrong about that.
I know I have that problem when I'm trying to explain things even to my clients, right? Because I will want to talk in our language versus, and it's complicated. You know, you and I have a lot in common because I started out in my dad's accounting firm too, and that's how I ended up here. Totally by accident, because we landed a very large 401k plan when I started interning there in college, and that became my full-time job, working on a pooled, balanced, forward, participant-directed 401k plan that we did quarterly valuations for. So that's how I ended up here.
And it's really, these stories are great because I think they teach people that you don't have to have an absolute destination in mind. You have to feel what you're good at, feel what you're interested in, and let the opportunities take you on the road to where you're going to go. And that's just been so clear to me when I look back at what I've done. And I think it's important for other people now too, because people, there's somewhat of a generational divide. And I think that a lot of young people are feeling like maybe they don't have the opportunities that they wish they had. And this comes this impacts the retirement situation too, which I know we're going to get into that more in a moment. But my point is that if you are open to the opportunities that present themselves and don't have an expectation of where you're going to end up, then your interests will reveal themselves to you.
Yes, you're right. And what's funny to me is so many of us end up in this industry by accident.
Yeah.
But all of us, once we get here, seem to develop this incredible passion for it. And it's so rewarding too, I mean, we really actually do make a difference in people's lives. And it's such a rewarding feeling that keeps us all coming back, right? So it really feeds our passion for this. So
exactly, absolutely right.
Were there any defining moments or mentors early in your career that helped shape your passion for employee benefits and plan governance?
Well, one of them was the attorney that I mentioned, and I have great respect for him looking back. But another person that really motivated me was Phyllis Borsey. Believe it or not, before she was the Employee Benefit Security Administration what's it called?
We'll just call her the head, the leader.
The head. Right. I don't know why I'm not thinking of what her title was. Oh, assistant secretary, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. So before Phyllis was assistant secretary there, she was a senior lawyer at a top law firm in DC. I'm sure she had other senior roles as well, but this was when I had met her. And so she was speaking at a conference, and she was just so intelligent and so well-rounded and so down to earth, yet mastering all of this, very high level technical stuff to be able to speak to the conference really so articulately that I really felt like she was fantastic. And I spoke to her afterwards and she said, "Oh, great, you're gonna do well in law school, enjoy and work hard." And it was later, just last year, actually, at the ERISA 50th anniversary celebration in DC. I was lucky enough to go to that with several of our American Retirement Association colleagues. And I happened to run into Phyllis walking in to the event. And I walked up to her and I said, "Oh, Phyllis, how are you?" She had just hurt her foot. So
Oh,
she was hobbling around, but she said, "I'm well." And I said, "I just want to thank you because you really encouraged me, and I feel like I owe a lot to you for all the encouragement that you gave, not just to me, but to other people in the field too." So that was kind of nice.
that's awesome. Yeah. And it's funny too, a lot of people that we meet don't know that they are motivating us, right? When we see them. So I try to remember that whenever we're at conferences and stuff, that we can have an impact on people that are newer to our industry and not even know it. So
Exactly. I fully agree with that. And you don't know, one of our friends, Jeff Atchison, who was the former president of ARA right
uh-huh.
before me, he inspired me so much. But one of the things he always says is that always be kind. You don't know what's going on with the person that you're speaking to. And
Yes,
I found that to be, he has so many wonderful qualities, but that's
he
certainly one
does.
of them.
I love Jeff.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorites. I had the pleasure of serving on the ARA board years and years ago before I went to the ASPA Leadership Council. And that's where I first met Jeff. And he's just an amazing human being. You're right.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. So can you tell our audience what your current role at NextEra looks like? What all does it entail?
Yeah. As senior counsel, I work very closely with the administration people who administer the benefit plans, the full suite of benefits, including retirement, both
Hmm.
401k and we have a cash balance pension as well. So I am very involved with assisting them to try to figure out what plan provisions they would like to adopt when new legislation comes along. And so, we explore the, as you said earlier, what works, what doesn't.
Right.
You want to help them to figure out what's going to be doable, what is going to be administratively successful, and what will motivate the participants to participate, particularly if saving through 401k.
Mhm.
You have to be motivated. We have, as you have, implemented auto enroll for. We did that before you were required to do it. Of course, the new plans have to do it now. But that has been something that's been extremely successful. But we talked about what's the right level to do it at. Uh, we match up to, if you save up to 7%, they match 4.75%. So we wanted to
Mhm.
get people there, but we didn't want to start the people there because that would be just too much of a, biting off more than they could chew in a lot of
Mhm.
cases. And you want to have people who remain enrolled and don't opt out. So that's the type of balancing that has to be done. Other things, new laws that have come along have been a little challenging in my view. For example, to have people be able to elect Roth for their employer match. That was something
Mhm.
that my clients decided not to adopt, at least not at this moment, because that added a level of complexity when the numbers may not have really demonstrated that Roth was of all that much interest to the majority of the participants. So those are the things that you try to be open to see. You don't want to make changes and then go backwards, and then you want to try to have a story that presents itself in a way that is easy to communicate to the participants, because there's just a lot more uptake and a lot more interest in the plan if people understand it, understand why it works the way it does, and what the opportunities are for them. One more thing I'll say, I know that some plans think about whether they want to have hardship withdrawals. Our plan has hardship withdrawals, and we feel kind of lucky that we don't have too much abuse of it. But now that there is no mandatory suspension period, we do have one or two, really it's that small, but still one or two people who do take out a hardship withdrawal, quite a lot. But of course, it's for the purpose that the hardship withdrawal is implemented for, which is that people, sometimes they get into a financial strait, and we have one person who really is in financial straits with the rent. And so this is something that you absolutely want to balance to enable people to be able to take care of what they need to do, especially if they're economically insecure.
Yeah, definitely. And I know auto enrollment, as you mentioned, has been a game changer for a lot of my clients, especially clients who didn't want to be safe harbor, but they needed help passing their non-discrimination testing. So
Right.
auto enrollment has been a game changer. And then I know you touched on hardships. One thing that we saw that's concerning, at least to us, is as third party administrators, because we see so many different plans. Um, we've noticed a real increase in people taking hardships now that they can self-certify the hardship and they don't have to present proof. So for me, as somebody, kind of watching the industry as a whole and working, because I work on the Legislative Relations Committee for ARA and things like that. Well, I think self-certification for hardships was great for plan sponsors. I think it's not been great for people keeping their money in the 401k plan and actually letting it grow to retirement. So that's been a little bit disappointing to see. We'll see what comes of that later and how that evolves, since that's really very new. So
Right. And
I'm glad that your plan doesn't seem to have a problem with it.
no, but still I do feel, sensitive for even the two people that it is an issue for. But
Yeah.
I think that one of the developments in recent years with financial wellness has also been a really great help, because I think that people like to be able to step back and learn more generally what are the skills that they need. And, it's great to be thinking about retirement, but there are also interim goals that people have that they may not be really sure how to balance all of the needs that they're going to have, especially as we kind of alluded to earlier. Younger people
Yeah.
really need to figure out what is their immediate goal and what is their midterm goal and what is their long-term goal. And if you have somebody who is able to kind of demonstrate that for you, not so much to be you should, and more like, here's what's available to you, here are your opportunities. I think that that can be very successful, so that people will learn how to manage debt, good debt, bad debt. People will learn how to have an emergency fund, which some people have through their plans. That is not something that we have adopted. Um, I don't know what the uptake is. And in fact, I want to check on the PSCA survey to see if there's any reporting on that.
I think it's pretty low right now, but I'm hearing more and more about different products that are coming out that maybe will make it easier. So I think that we'll see an uptick, because I think you're right. The financial literacy stuff that's been coming up, the financial wellness stuff, it was amazing to me when I started. I wrote an article probably 5 or 6 years ago on like financial wellness and doing studies, doing the research. It was amazing to me how few states require any sort of financial wellness or financial literacy class before you graduate from high school. And and then there was some reporting too about, even parents that can't teach their kids because they never learned.
That's right.
And so the parents need to be educated. And then there was a survey talking about parents would rather talk to their kids about drugs and other things than talking to their kids about money, that's so uncomfortable for them to talk about. So
Yes.
I think we have a long ways to go, but I love what our industry is doing as far as recognizing that there's a need and really starting to address that need at earlier ages. So we have a lot
Absolutely
of
right.
volunteers in this industry that are very passionate about financial literacy too.
Yes.
So you've held leadership roles across the industry from serving as president of PSCA and
Right.
now you're leading the ARA. What inspired you to get involved at that level and how have those experiences influenced your perspective on the broader retirement system?
Well, I don't know that I was that ambitious that I really decided that I would like to be president of PSCA or president of ARA. I got involved because I cared a lot about the legal and legislative side. And so when I was just a member at PSCA, I was given the opportunity to join the committee. They called it legal and legislative. Now we refer to it as government affairs committee. But from way back when, really when I started at NextEra in '08, is when I got involved with PSCA. And I loved them because they were very interested in education of participants and education of plan sponsors, especially the smaller plan sponsors who really might not have, maybe they ended up in the role that they're in. Maybe they knew payroll and now they were asked to also administer 401k and suddenly they're the person. So I thought that I was really interested in the legal and legislative side. So I was on that committee, and then you just have opportunities open up. And somebody said, "Well, would you like to go into the leadership track for becoming president?" And I said, "Oh, I don't think I would have the skills for that, and I don't know that I'm the right person for that." And I just got a lot of encouragement, particularly from the president and vice president. And people encourage you, and then you say, all right, well, I can try it. And I view it more as service rather than some type of it's not like an ivory tower. When you are, as you well know, Shannon, nobody does more for the organization than you do, and other volunteer stuff as well. But when I had that opportunity, I was lucky enough to receive the encouragement. And so I was president of PSCA. And it was at a wonderful, wonderful time of the history of that organization. PSCA, you may know, started in 1947 as the Profit Sharing Council of America. That was before 401ks ever existed. Then they changed their name later on to Plan Sponsor Council of America. But at the time when I was president was right around the time when PSCA was able to join forces with ARA. And that's just been the most wonderful thing for PSCA. I think PSCA very well rounded out the membership and the focus of ARA as well, because to have plan sponsors as part of that overall umbrella is really, really important. And that's one of the things I love the most about ARA, that it just has so many different areas of the profession that it touches and it positively impacts. So after I was part of ARA, that you sit on the leadership board of directors as the president of the they call it sister organizations, as you know. And so when I was president of the sister organization, I went to the ARA meetings and I just got more and more interested in that. And I got in leadership there.
Yeah, I agree that bringing PSCA into ARA really did round out the organization so well. And because I think PSCA came in about the time that I was sitting on the board for the first time, and just getting to know, and really, I mean, like I knew NAPA, the advisors sister organization, and obviously I knew the actuaries sister organization, but like NATSA I wasn't as familiar with, and then PSCA. So it was really such an incredible opportunity for me to be able to learn all about the different sister organizations and how we all work together. And when PSCA came on, I think it was such a great addition, because we need to understand what the plan sponsors are looking for. I know they do a session at Napa Summit every year about, like what do plan sponsors want? And those
I've,
of us
I've, I've spoken at that.
yeah, those of us sitting on this end, right, as the TPA or as the financial advisor, we think we know what plan sponsors want, but
Yeah,
it's amazing to sit in that session, and sometimes it will surprise you. They're like, "No, I don't want this. This is going to complicate things. We're not using this."
yeah,
So it's really neat to have that be a part of our organization where we can get that input before we go to DC and try to advocate for law changes and things like that. So it is really cool. Um,
exactly. And some of the
it
things are not expected, like I think that many in the investment field might have thought that plan sponsors would be really interested in adopting ESG investments,
right.
um, environmental, social, and governance focused investments, that there really was very little desire to adopt that. Most of the time, it relates to the fact that it just complicates the education.
Mhm.
And the point of the 401k is not to have the types of investments that are short term. You want to have, it's got to be focused on retirement,
Right.
the long term investing. And so those are not always conducive. ESG is not always conducive to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the more simple we keep it for plan participants,
Yeah,
the better, because we have seen that they do get paralyzed when they have too many choices and
that's
too
right.
much
Absolutely
information.
right.
They just
Absolutely.
won't make a choice instead of making a choice.
That's
So,
right.
you've been at the table for some of the most important conversations around plan design, governance, and participant outcomes. Looking back, what accomplishments are you most proud of, whether that's in your current position, a prior position, or in your leadership roles at PSEA and ARA?
Well, I actually had the opportunity to think about this recently, and it occurred to me that perhaps some of the things I'm most proud of in my current role as an attorney would be to counsel people against doing certain plan provisions that may be problematic for reasons that they do not foresee, or just to add that type of context. So I can't give you any specifics on that kind of a thing. I don't think anyone would like me talking about that, but I thought that that was really one of the most important things that I had added. I would like to think also that I have been constructive in the fiduciary committee area to try to add some uh, continuity, and to assist with the membership so that everyone feels, it's education of fiduciary committee members is
Mhm.
really important. So that's something that I've been involved with as well.
That's wonderful. How has your work at NextEra helped close the retirement savings gap for your employees? And can you share an example of a change or an initiative or insight that made a measurable difference?
Well, I think that auto enroll did make a very good difference. It was something that was challenging to adopt in the beginning because we had various population groups, several union groups, which of
Mm,
course you have to negotiate. These days you wouldn't have to, because a legally required change would be something that, of course, would be adopted. But in the days when auto enroll was first implemented here, there were several different groups that had to negotiate what the level was going to be. And,
mm.
they had other different terms too. They're going to have different vesting and different auto escalate. So that was challenging, because the more complication you add to the administration, the more opportunity there is for mistakes in administration, and nothing's 100%
Right.
perfect. That's why we have the correction programs through the IRS, which are really important. When I first started, they didn't have those.
Yeah.
And the EPCRS has been a marvelous opportunity. So my point is that when auto enroll came in, that was something that we jumped into that because we thought that that was going to be really important for people. And it has been. We always had, pretty good participation rates, but my understanding is they're, right around 95%, which is,
Wow, that's amazing.
it's super. It's
That's
really super.
amazing. Yeah.
And we tend to have, many people are longer term employees too. So they're really able to accumulate, some kind of a nest egg
Right.
to retire on. So that's been really good. Another thing they did was to, many years ago, before I was here, they had hundreds of investment options and like 200 investment options. And
Wow.
so that was pared back, substantially so that you have a suite of investments that people can understand. There are different investment objectives and they cover all the bases,
Hmm.
particularly in target retirement, which I'm a big fan of. I'm a
Yeah.
really incredibly big fan of target retirement date funds.
Yep.
Um, because I think that it's important for people to set it and forget it. They don't need to go in there. Nobody is discouraging people from going in and looking at your balance and all that, but you don't need to be a day trader in 401k. That's not the
Right.
purpose of it.
Right. No, I totally agree. And even, Marjorie, I love that you say that because I think target date funds have been a game changer for our industry as well. Because even people like me, I work in this industry every day, 40 hours a week. I don't know anything about investments. Because I'm not an investment advisor. I hire an investment advisor for my plan and for
Exactly.
my personal assets because I don't want to. I don't think you can be an expert in compliance and an expert in the investment side both. And so I've chosen compliance and hire an expert for the investments. And,
Exactly.
I have to set it and forget it. Somebody has to manage it for me. I don't even look at my balance very
Yeah.
often. So, yeah, I
Well,
totally agree with you.
as I said, I've had some investment experience in the past, and one of my roles too now is to advise the trust fund investment group. So I'm very involved with not only the fiduciary committee for investments, but
Hmm.
for the administration folks too. They make recommendations to the committee as to what funds should be part of the lineup and also a very extensive pension portfolio. So I do feel confident in understanding the various types of investments and would probably be able to do a halfway decent job in the absence of target retirement date funds. But why? When I
Right.
have a target retirement date fund that has significant returns based upon indexes, um, there's no reason for me to spend my time trying to figure out what's best for my portfolio. And
Right.
so I'm a really big believer.
Yep. I am too. I am too. So, as ARA president, you are in a unique position to see the whole ecosystem, plan sponsors, advisors, record keepers, policymakers. From that vantage point, what progress do you see toward closing both the savings gap and the coverage gap that still, and what still needs the most attention?
Well, that's a great question. I think that the ARA has been really great because, as you alluded to earlier, the fact that we have various organizations involved with different focuses, I think makes the conversation more prevalent.
Hmm.
More people are discussing it, and so we also have quite a bit of communication going on. We have wonderful writers on our newsletter staff and we have publications. Just this morning, I was very proud to read in the NAPANet. There were a couple hundred women leaders
Mm-hmm.
who were honored. Several of them I know personally from my work in ARA, and so I'm just so very proud of them. But we're focusing on the communication of these important issues, and as areas such as lifetime income become more and more important, we focused, I think, for a lot of years on the accumulation phase, and maybe not so very much on, okay, now that I've accumulated this terrific pot of gold, how am I going to use it so that I can have the kind of retirement and sustain myself in retirement in the way that I would like to be accustomed, and
Mm-hmm.
not suddenly turn around and not know what to do. So I think that the more people talk about these things, the better it is. And you are able to focus on the future and not just so much on, oh, you have to get rid of your Starbucks every week so you have enough to
Mm-hmm.
put into your 401k account.
Yeah. What do you think some of the biggest challenges are for large employers like yours? Um, and what do you think their biggest challenges are in helping their employees achieve retirement readiness? And how are you all tackling that at your job?
Well, again, I think the communications are what's really important.
Mm-hmm.
At a large company, and really at many companies, it's not just large companies. Many companies have very different levels of ages in their workforce, educational backgrounds, and frankly, interests.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important to be able to not so much find a common denominator, but to be able to have targeted messages that speak to various needs. And I think that if you become a trusted voice with employees, then that goes a long way towards helping them to recognize the opportunities that they have. And every employer that offers employee benefits, not just 401k, wants to make sure that they're offering things that balance the investment that the employer is making in them with the
Mm-hmm.
needs of the employees, so that the employees value them, and hopefully will want to stay your employees because they value them. So that's a huge balance, because you can't always just throw money at something. You have to know what are the actual needs of
Mm-hmm.
the employees. So I think the challenge is to direct your message and to repeat things enough without being so predictable that people hit delete before they'll read the email. You have to check,
Yeah.
you got to check the open rate. And we have a great communications team who does that, but they are not experts in, benefits. And so
Right.
the administration staff is, integral to helping, and they partner with the communications people to ensure that they have a message that really resonates with different groups of employees, and doesn't turn anybody off. There's
Right.
nothing worse
Right.
than talking about, you know, how to have a sophisticated investment when somebody is just starting out in their career and they're like, listen, I'd love to be able to feel really great about contributing the auto enroll at 3% year one.
Right, right. Yeah, it is hard, especially, if you have a small doctor's office with 10 employees and you have your financial advisor come in and talk to them all at once. That's way different than having thousands of employees that you have to speak to and keep their attention, especially when you are dealing with different age groups too, and how they communicate and whether or not are they on their phone or their computer or how that all works. So,
And that's a challenge too for a lawyer advising, because I'm always very interested in a channel of communications that is going to be, something you can keep a record of, and
hmm.
have some consistency. So I'm not one who is big on the gamification in terms of the messaging, and I know that's not always a popular view. So sometimes they have to keep me um, placate me to understand what their needs are in communication needs. And so we've gotten a lot more comfortable with electronic delivery of
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and we make sure that we follow the rules. But there are, with a great deal of workers who don't have a computer at their desk. We have linemen who are out in the
Right.
trucks, and they have real sophisticated iPads and stuff to work on, because we're highly, electronic. Uh, uh, it's not just like the wires anymore.
Right.
And don't even let me go there, because I really can't explain it very well. But the point is, just because they have the iPads and stuff doesn't mean it's going to meet the delivery requirements under
Right.
the DOL reg. So there's a
Yeah.
balance there.
Yeah, there is definitely. And all of us are trying to figure out how to do that more electronically.
Yeah,
So, the regulatory environment keeps evolving. We had Secure 2.0, and now we're implementing Secure 2.0. And there's even now ongoing policy discussions about plan coverage and portability. And we're already talking about Secure 3.0.
yeah.
What do you think plan sponsors most need from policymakers and industry partners to stay effective and compliant?
I think they need to have consistency and lack of complexity. I'll give an example, and I think their heart was in the right place, but the what is people are referring to as super catch up
Mm-hmm.
for just those few ages 60 to 63, where people
Mm-hmm.
can put in a higher amount pre-tax. I find that to be, I don't think that that hits the mark. I think that
Mm-hmm.
they had a good intention, that that was what ketchup was all about to begin with. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember whether I was even a big fan of ketchup in the beginning. I think what I like better about regular ketchup is that, once you hit that age, then that just stays stable. But now to
Right.
add in another level of age 60 to 63 and not 64. So people are gonna, the ones who are 64 are like, what the hey?
Right.
Well, you're telling me I can't do this? That can't be right.
Yeah.
So that was something that I think was a level of complexity that I don't know if that's really going to work out. And it wasn't even that clear that it was something that was voluntary. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's a challenge. Another one, I think I might have mentioned already, the Roth company match. That one was, yeah, it's great if maybe at a smaller place, if they had just many more highly compensated people. We just have a regular balance of highly
Right.
compensated people. So I don't know that that made the most sense. To me, the real challenge is to make sure that rules are predictable, that they don't vary widely from administration to administration. We had some ping ponging on, for example, the ESG and
Mm-hmm.
the proxy voting. And I don't think that's very helpful. And I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. So I'm hoping that the Department of Labor's focus will be on streamlining things more, and not making things complicated for the plan sponsors, and by extension, the whole industry.
Yeah. No, I think that more small employers will adopt plans if they are less complex. Um, and that's what we need, right? We want to close the coverage gap. And so the more complex we make them, the less likely people are to adopt them. I mean, and it's not even just the laws that are passed, because something can be passed and it seems very straightforward when it comes out of Congress, but then it gets interpreted in a way by the IRS
Yes,
that is incredibly complex, like
yes,
the Roth catch-up contributions
yes,
and like the long-term part-time employees.
yes.
Both of those
Excellent example.
interpretations, both of those interpretations by the IRS could have gone a different way that would have made them so much less complex
Right.
that they would not have caused the widespread panic and headaches. I mean, we have clients that are saying, I just won't have catch-ups. If I have to have Roth, I just won't have catch-ups.
Yeah,
And we had one very large employer who does not do the super catch-ups because they didn't want to have to deal with the complexity. And so I think you're
I
right.
understand. Yeah,
We need less complex rules. And and I'm not saying that the IRS deliberately made them as complex as possible, right? Because they read the law and the other laws that surround that law, and
yeah,
they had to interpret it the way they did.
yeah,
But now we have to go back to Congress and try to get things fixed so that
yeah,
maybe they're not as complex in
yeah.
the reading.
And I
Anyway.
think the danger, Shannon, is very great at this moment because right now, people are claiming that the gap is causing people to not have the opportunity to have a retirement plan. And of course, we want to encourage people to have retirement plans. But from way back when, PSCA was always interested in no mandates. We let us have a plan design that works for our group. And
Mm-hmm.
there is quite a strong movement with some people in Congress to go completely away from the private employer-sponsored plan
Mm-hmm.
to have a government controlled plan, as though that were going to solve all the problems that exist. And so
Right.
I think there's a I think it's incumbent on us in our industry to make sure that we are able to communicate with our lawmakers that
Mm-hmm.
the system that we have is a great system. We are not having a tax holiday forever. It's a tax deferral on retirement
Mm-hmm.
savings. And that this makes the huge difference between having enough to be comfortable in your retirement and not. And
Yep.
I think that if people are dissuaded that the private employer sponsored system is working, then there's going to be more talk about taking that away. And things like
Yep.
the Retirement Savings for Americans Act is an example of the type of program that is being talked about that will just start a government savings plan. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the direction that we should go in.
I agree. I totally agree. So, as past president of Plan Sponsor Council of America, can you tell my audience what PSCA does for plan sponsors and why should they consider joining the organization? And how does it help working Americans be able to retire with dignity?
Well, I think it's really important that even if a smaller employer has a plan, if they don't have people working on the plan, even if their role is to coordinate with a very strong TPA, um, often they don't have to know everything there is to
Right.
know about plan administration when they have, excellent professionals that they're working with. But the point that I would make is that if they don't feel well enough versed to be able to converse with employees about it, to answer questions when you meet somebody in a hallway or at a water cooler, and to be able to really speak to what the plan is all about and how it operates, then if they're not comfortable, they're not going to do that. And if people
Mm-hmm.
don't know about the plan, and if they may have concerns, for example, if somebody says, oh, well, I don't want to contribute to the plan, I'm going to opt out because I might need to help my daughter with college tuition. And so I wouldn't be able to access that money. If you have somebody who is knowledgeable about opportunities under the plan and plan design, then you're going to have that objection overcome. And maybe that employee will feel more comfortable participating. And so they do a wonderful job of education. They have national conferences that are really fantastic because the plan sponsor members can come and talk with each other and say what's working for you, what's not working for you, and they can have very frank and candid, confidential conversations about what's working and what are their challenges they're facing. And I mentioned earlier also the survey that PSCA does, because that enables people to, if they participate, they get a free copy of the survey. They can buy it, but it's always nice to get a free copy of this very comprehensive survey so that you know what are the prevalent plan provisions that people have. And that helps you to have a plan that people want to participate in. So there's always going to be people who don't take advantage, but the more you have an educated plan sponsor ecosystem, if you will, the more the employees who work at those companies will participate. And I think PSCA, that's one of their big focuses.
I know, I agree. I actually had the opportunity to offer some of their education classes to some of my clients at no cost to my client. And my clients who took it said it was excellent. They really liked it. It was very helpful because even those people who work with a TPA, right? And my clients can call me anytime they want. They can ask questions, but I am not sitting in their office with them every single day,
Yeah,
helping them with payroll.
yeah,
And just having some sort of base education around what are your responsibilities as the plan sponsor? What are your
yeah.
responsibilities as the fiduciary? How do these things work? What is that crazy stuff Shannon is talking to me about when she calls me? And what do these words mean? Just some sort of level of education is helpful. And I think PSCA does an amazing job with their education. And also, you're right, the survey, I take the survey every year so that I can get a copy of it. And I will put at the end, I will put in the show notes how to participate in the survey and where to get a copy of it because I think it is such a valuable tool that we fill it out every year. And the more people that we get to fill it out, the more feedback we have because we even send the link out to all of our clients every year and ask them to participate.
That's
Um,
terrific.
just because like I said, the more people we have participate, the more information we have as an organization, and the better we can serve, all of our plan sponsors and everybody else. So, um, as president of the American Retirement Association and having been involved on the ARA board of directors for a while now, leading up to that, what have you seen the ARA and all of the five sister organizations do that benefits plan sponsors and ultimately their plan participants?
Well, just the idea that there is an ARA that has all of these different sister organizations, the fact that you have those different industries talking to each other, I think makes a huge, huge difference in what is available out there in terms of education and information. And it's like one person talks to the next person, talks to the next person. I have met some people in ARA's board of directors that are just phenomenal people. And you can see the leadership that they exude at their different organizations. But the cross-pollination, if you will, is something that's really important. And you get ideas about what are challenges in different areas. I had mentioned at the national conference for PSCA that the plan sponsors are able to get together and talk about challenges. Well, when they are able to speak with, for example, ASPA members who talk about challenges on administration and NAPA members who talk about challenges on investments and plan advisors. I think that education enables you to offer a better product for your own employees. So I think that ARA is unique in that respect, and they're doing a wonderful job in making sure that people are aware in this country of the importance of the retirement system.
So before we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to say to our audience, plan sponsors, financial advisors, anything else you'd like to, any tidbit of advice?
Well, keep doing what you're doing is a good one, but I'll also say that in a more general sense, getting to meet all of these different professionals makes me even more sure of the urgency and importance of communicating with other people. Things are very challenging politically in the
Hmm.
United States at this time. And I think we all have a significant opportunity to turn down the volume and to turn up the communications and understand that everybody we're speaking to, as Jeff Atchison would say, has stuff that they are going through and that they're thinking about. And so the respect in conversations and to be openly and communicative with others it's a challenge I think we all face right now, not just in the retirement industry. I am very thrilled that in our area it is it's virtually nonpartisan
Hmm.
because it's important to everyone to have a secure retirement. It doesn't matter where they came from, it doesn't matter what their beliefs are. That's something that unites all of us. And so I'm just happy to be a part of a group that is able to focus on that.
I totally agree. We are very lucky to have the ARA and that it is a nonpartisan group. So,
Yes.
Marjorie, thank you so much for sharing your time, your insights, and your perspective with us today. It's inspiring to hear directly from a plan sponsor who's leading both within her company and across the national stage through your work in ARA. To our
Thank you,
listeners,
Shannon.
thank you, really, thank you, and thank you for recording this with me today. I pushed record. Uh, to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Gap. If you believe that you have an innovative approach to closing the gaps in retirement savings for Americans and you would like to share your ideas, let me know. My contact information is in the show notes. Don't forget to follow, share, and leave a review if you've enjoyed this conversation. Together, we can keep closing the gap one plan, one policy, and one participant at a time.